Hey, welcome everybody. This is Dr. Tim Spiker. You're with us at the Inn with Dr. Tim. We provide a podcast to provide you cutting edge topics in health and performance. And we are so fortunate here tonight to have Miss Kelsey Boyer. Kelsey Boyer is a professional snowboarder and founder of Save a Brain Incorporated. Kelsey has been featured in Snowboarder magazine, is a sponsored athlete with K2, Gyro, and Roxy, and travels the world both filming her snowboarding feats and helping to inspire other girls and women to take up the sport through her work with Beyond the Boundaries, a company focused on promoting females to get into the mountains through the sport of snowboarding. Kelsey started snowboarding at the age of 13 and quickly advanced in the sport, first competing at age 16 and 1 year later winning the Nike Chosen, which sparked her desire to become a professional snowboarder. With this goal in mind, she packed her bags and left her family in Pennsylvania to pursue a snowboarding career in Utah. She became a sponsored athlete at age 18. However, in 2016, Kelsey suffered a traumatic brain injury that required brain surgery, which was thought to sideline her from snowboarding for the rest of her life, not to mention from being a normal human being. However, after 4 years of therapy and struggle, Kelsey returned to the sport and regained her professional status with a new goal in mind. Kelsey's now focused on helping others gain the education and financial support to heal from their brain injury through her nonprofit foundation, Save a Brain Incorporated. So Kelsey, thanks so much for being here tonight. I think your story is very powerful and could potentially help really just thousands and thousands of individuals struggling with a similar thing that you went through. And so maybe you can just maybe start off with telling us about your story and what happened and how you got here.
Well, thanks for having me on here. It's new that I'm starting to tell the story because I'm just like, you know what, we need to start talking about this. But basically, how I got here was through my brain injury. Like my whole career just kind of shifted really quick. Had my brain surgery, and next thing I knew, I was kind of just like living this different life.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Kels, how did it happen? Like, do you even remember? Like, what were you doing at the time when it occurred?
I was, so I had, it was a heavy competing season. People were trying to start racking up points for the 2018 Olympics. So you start 2 years in advance. So I had pretty much back to back to back contests. And I started my year out in January in Canada. And I knocked myself out cold during that contest.
Were you like in the were you on slope style, half pipe?
Yep. I was doing slope style. So yeah,
Mhm.
jumps and rails in that. Basically, my whole season after that one knockout consisted of me over mid-air a lot. I remember I was learning how to fix it because
Uh,
it was so new. And I probably hit my head like 8 more times within a 2 month
you
period.
sound like you were trying to
Pretty
pull a
bad.
Shaun White.
And yeah,
Well,
I don't know what I was thinking. I just
is
like
it? Is let me
I
ask you this,
yeah, I don't
Kelsey. I
know.
mean, when is it pretty common, like for snowboarders at your level to be hitting their head on a regular basis as they're training?
Oh yeah. I think that's kind of like the hidden injury with like the whole action sports industry is just like we fall all the time and you can sustain concussions through hitting your head, hitting your butt, like whiplash. And it's probably that and ACL are probably our
Hmm.
number one like
Okay.
injuries
Well,
for sure.
were you wearing a helmet at the time?
Uh, I was probably should have had a new one because most of them are meant for one impact only, and this one went with me through all of them. So I probably should have had
Well,
a new one, but I just kept wearing
sure.
my
And
same
that's,
old
I
one.
guess, a really good point that you just brought up. That you know, so you're in action sports, or even like you're just snowboarding or skiing at the resort. you bang your head on a rail
Mm-hmm.
or even on snow. And my understanding, and I think you
Yep.
understand this too, that your brain can actually get shaken inside your head. It doesn't really even have to hit
Mm-hmm.
anything. Like what you said, you could fall on your butt and then your head shakes and your brain moves inside your skull and then you get a concussion. But, with that being said, I know that there's individuals out there who have probably hit their head once or twice, even, the kids in the park trying to kind of do your tricks and model you, right? They may not know this, but they should probably have a new helmet, right?
For sure. And that's definitely something that I just like, I don't know, like you read it and you know about it, but you just like, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. And then before you know it, everything is not fine. And like, I don't know, they have all of those protocols for helmets for a reason. So it's like, it's
Yeah.
serious.
Do you remember what kind of trick you were trying to pull off?
Honestly, I think the one that really, so basically like what happened was after probably like 8 like concussions in 2 months. One of them, when I fell, it was a really bad one. I literally think I was just doing like an easy trick, like a safety
Mm-hmm.
trick, like on the last
But
jump.
Kelsey, can I stop you
And
there? Because I just heard something kind of
oh
crazy.
yeah,
So before
yeah,
your concussion, right, you had,
hmm
you think, up to 8 prior to your big one? Is that correct?
probably, yeah,
Okay,
probably.
okay. So keep going.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. I just kept like pushing myself and falling because like clearly something like my equilibrium was so off because I kept just falling, spinning in the air on spins that I was doing all the time. So it didn't make sense to me, but I just kept pushing, kind of ignored it. And then yeah, I fell really bad, like caught my like toe edge of my snowboard on the ground, hit face first, like my goggles exploded, like it was pretty bad, but I got up
Were you
anyway
going pretty
and
fast, or like
I
were you?
oh yeah.
How
Yeah, I
fast do
was
you?
going
What would
pretty
you estimate?
uh
Like
it was it was probably like I mean, you're going fast because like the last jump of a slopestyle course is usually always the
hmm
biggest and you have to clear it or you're gonna, you know, hit that knuckle and you're gonna get hurt. And so I was going pretty fast into it. And it was probably just, it was maybe like a 50 to 60 foot jump. So not like too big, but big enough.
Well, for some of us, 50 and 60 feet is quite high.
Yeah.
I'm more
Yeah.
of like the
Yeah.
2 footer.
It,
That's.
it was,
But I'm
yeah.
old. I'm trying to preserve my
Honestly, like
body.
it was, I look back on it and I'm like, that was just, those are just too big. Like, but yeah, so yeah, I was going like pretty fast into it. Like just tipped over mid spin and just pretty much slammed straight down with my body and my
Mhm.
head. So there's a lot of like acceleration and velocity in that.
Sure.
But yeah, and then I remember like I picked myself up, got back on the chairlift, and was like, I have to take my second run, and clearly was like shook.
hmm
And I kind of had like this weird ringing in my ears and my head. And I just had this weird gut feeling and like almost like voice that was like, your brain is bleeding, like an
Mm.
instinct told me. And I rushed right to ski patrol. And they were like, you're fine. You're just concussed. And I was like, okay. But then I couldn't even like stand. So they hooked me up to oxygen, went down to ski patrol again and they said, you're fine. You're just concussed. So 2 weeks goes past. I go to maybe 3 to 4 other doctors.
Well,
Everybody tells me
well,
I'm
let me ask you
fine.
this, Kelsey, because you finished that day.
Yep.
So, what were you feeling that really kind of promoted you to seek help from other healthcare professionals beyond the ski patrollers?
It was, it honestly was everybody around me was telling me that I wasn't okay and then were kind of forcing me, taking me to these
What did they
doctors
notice?
because they were like, you're just not acting
Mm.
right. Like something seems wrong. And I was having like pretty aggressive headaches where I was taking like a lot of like ibuprofen to even just like exist for the day. So yeah, I went to like a few doctors. Everybody still was just like, it's post concussion syndrome. Like that's normal. Your head's gonna hurt. So I kept snowboarding because everybody was saying I was fine. So I took 2 weeks off, went on a filming trip in Jackson Hole, Wyoming,
Now, Kelsey, can I
and
stop you for just
oh yeah,
1 second?
yeah,
Okay, because
please, please,
I want to make sure that our listeners know something.
yeah,
Okay, because I'm a
totally,
medical professional, AT
yeah,
by trade and training,
for
and,
sure.
and ATs are some of the highest trained individuals, at least mid-level care providers in concussion.
Hmm.
Well, I just want everybody to know that that's not normal, everybody. Okay, and 2016 is not too far from now. We know that post-concussive syndrome is a very serious deal. Most individuals who have had a concussion, okay, and their brain's not healed yet, and then they get hit again and they have post-concussive syndrome, they stand a huge chance of dying or being vegetable, right? So it's a big deal. And unfortunately, what I'm hearing from Kelsey is that she probably ran across some healthcare providers that just weren't really that clued into how significant of an issue this was. And so just everyone know that, oh, if any provider says that to you, you should really then seek additional help from someone, maybe an AT, maybe a physician, someone who's really schooled in concussion management, diagnosis, and treatment. Thank you, Kelsey. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that that
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
normal.
No, that's good. This is good. No, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, I kind of went like a full different rogue route. So it's like that's good that you say that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't where was it? I
Well,
think
you
yeah,
were
I went
shopping
on a
around, I
on,
guess, for help. That's what it sounds like. But you couldn't get any help.
yeah,
You knew something was wrong with
well,
you, but everybody's telling you there's nothing wrong with you. They said you had a
yeah, yeah.
concussion, but you know.
Yeah, everybody's you're fine, you're fine. And you hear that from like a handful of doctors, so you're like I'm
Well, let me ask
fine.
you: did they ever do any
Like
like neurocognitive testing, or like run you
n-
through like
n-
balance testing, or doing that stuff?
no.
Wow, man,
Not
that's like a front
no,
line thing
like
that you got to do. There's even stuff on the
for
internet called
sure.
the SCAT-5 and standard, concussion assessments.
Hmm.
So that is really
Totally.
just that's mind blowing to me as a professional who deals with this on a regular basis. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It was like and all my friends that were going with me and taking them were like check her head, and they just kept saying she's fine. Like it's just, post concussion syndrome. Like it's normal to have head pain after
Mhm.
a bad concussion. And I was like, it was like throbbing. Like I was just like, I don't know. And I honestly don't remember like most of the appointments either.
Mm. So definitely
Like
memory loss there for sure.
totally. And yeah, and after they like, I don't know, now that like we bring it up, kind of like leading up to where everybody told me I was fine. So, I'm like back on the road. Gotta keep going. Like,
Yeah.
gotta keep filming. It's still winter. Like, gotta push through. And as we're filming, so now this is 2 weeks after that one head slam that was pretty good.
Hmm.
And I don't remember those 2 weeks at all, really.
Wow.
Very foggy. And it's like I was driving cars and like doing things, but I don't remember because, yeah, what that was basically after Wyoming, after we filmed, everybody I was with was like, "You're not okay." Like I was gagging a lot out of nowhere, and I had zero appetite,
Hmm.
nothing.
So for those of
And
you out there are wondering
mhm,
why was Kelsey gagging? Okay, well, when there's pressure placed on cranial nerves, okay, particularly the glossopharyngeal nerve, which is basically just like your throat nerve, right? And there's a few others as well. That's likely why she was gagging. Had a lot of pressure, a lot of fluid on her cranial nerves, like the nerves inside your head. So,
I love that.
yeah, did doctors ever say anything about that? Did they like, why are you gagging?
Oh, Well, they like it kind of happened like after. I basically got like the clear from a handful of doctors. They just said it was post-concussion syndrome. You're fine, just take time off. And that's when it started progressively getting worse and worse.
Have you
So,
ever thought about, Kelsey, why maybe they, I don't know. Do you think they maybe like thought, well, hey, this is a professional athlete and she's going to deal with it? Or do you think they just, I don't know, have you reflected on that at all? Like, why didn't they give you the right assessment, treatment, care? Have you kind of processed that at all?
I do think about it a lot. I feel like I honestly don't go or trust doctors that often anymore because of the situation, because I just feel like I was never heard.
Mm,
Like I literally told them like something is wrong. I know
right,
something is wrong.
right,
But by the books, they were like, you fit under this category. And I was like, okay, like, but what, like, I'm just like, we know our bodies
right.
better than like anyone.
Yeah, definitely
Like,
pro athletes for sure. And it's so, and I think most patients and most individuals do, Kelsey, because I just had this conversation with one of my patients today. And she said the same thing. She's like, they're not listening to me. They're not hearing me. I told them what was
yeah,
wrong with me. And they came up with another diagnosis and they kind of like brushed me off. And I
yeah,
said to them, I said, well, in expertise research, right, we know that what happens is that when you go to the doctor, you go to anybody, clinician, therapist, whatever, sometimes
hmm
they don't hear you because they've already kind of created a story inside their head.
for sure. That's, yeah, that's the best way to put it. Like, it was just like someone created the story for me. That's what it was. And there was nothing else. And I was like, and then you believe it, like after a while, you're like, you believe their story because you don't know. Like you're just like you're trusting these people,
Mhm.
and it's kind of sad because you're just like, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of what really like turns me away from healthcare. And a lot of athletes, I think, is just like it's hard to find someone that you can trust that like
Mhm.
has your best interest. And yeah, I definitely do look back on it and I'm like, do they know? They have no idea that like they almost killed me.
Yeah, you
Like
very well could have died for sure. Yeah.
I seriously think about that all the time. Like, I'm just like, these people have no idea that what they said that day almost ended my life. If I wouldn't have finally just like, I walked into the emergency room after 2 weeks and was like, I need I need a CAT scan.
Yeah.
And the lady,
What prompted you to
oh,
go in
go
the
ahead.
emergency room? I'm just curious.
What, what led me to go
What
in there?
prompted you? Yeah, because
Oh,
a story had been created for you, and you had multiple people telling you the same story, and you're kind
yeah.
of believing it. But then all of a sudden, you end up in the emergency room. So, what was it
Yeah.
that finally like clicked for you that
It
leads you to the
was,
emergency room?
yeah. I'd say the 2 weeks of after that head hit, everybody around me, I was with the same people, were just like, you're not okay. You're not okay. Like, you're acting weird. And then when I started gagging, I finally was like, something's not right. Like, this isn't okay. So we drove 8 hours back, and my roommate at the time, her name was Micah, and she was just like, that's it. Get in the passenger side of the car. I'm driving you to the emergency room right now. Like, something is wrong. And I was like fighting her about it. But yeah, she basically saved my life because if I didn't go into the ER that night, they were just like, we don't think you would have survived another night.
Wow, wow,
Yeah,
that's a good friend.
yeah. Oh, straight up, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for forcing me. Like, and that's the biggest thing, like I'm just like, people have your best interests and like that love and care about you. And at
Mhm.
some point, you just gotta like go with it. Cause I did not want to go in there, but like, and even then, when we went into the ER, the nurse was just like, she literally said the same thing. She was like, it seems like post-concussion syndrome. And then she's like, but just in case, we'll take a CAT scan just to check.
Mm. What they find?
So they found that she came back in and her face was like, I could tell something was wrong. But she said this is a miracle. We don't know how you're alive. Your brain has shifted 11 millimeters. Yeah, so basically my head was just, my brain was bleeding for 2 weeks and I was still just living a normal life, snowboarding, like driving, everything. And yeah, just like you said, became so much pressure that my body was then just like gagging as a reflex. And yeah, next thing I knew, she was like giving me an apron and was like, you have to go. I was in Colorado at the time, and she was like, you need to go down to Denver for immediate brain surgery. And I was just in an ambulance and just off I went.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming they probably cut your skull open or drilled some holes in it to let that pressure out.
Hmm.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, so that I was diagnosed with a subdural hematoma,
Hmm.
but because I was bleeding for 2 weeks, they didn't know like if so basically they drilled a hole in my skull and put tubes in it and were trying to drain the blood. And then the next surgery was cutting out a chunk of the skull to scrape some of the dried blood out. And then they just stitched everything and stapled everything back up. And
Wow.
luckily, yeah, luckily surgery went like very smooth. But yeah, it's all kind of like a blur because obviously they were like, this is a problem. So they were just like trying to get me to just, relax and almost like sedate me so I'm not like talking as much. And they flew in like one of the top three brain surgeons, I think it was, to come work on me. So I had to wait like 24 hours to for him to arrive.
That
But
must, that must
yeah,
have
and then
been that must have been nerve-wracking for you. I mean, were you
oh yeah.
cognizant of like the situation you were under? Like people are operating on your brain.
I kind of just like I was terrified. My family lives across the country in Pennsylvania. So I pretty much was like on my own besides like my friends. And yeah, it didn't seem real almost.
Hmm.
Like I woke up, they of course gave me so much drugs that I don't remember the ambulance ride. And I came to, I'll never forget it, in the MRI machine. And I remember I woke up, of course, I'm like freaking out. And they're just like, Kelsey, you have 6 more minutes. Just lay, just relax. You're okay. And then, yeah, like I kind of like it's all a blur because of, yeah, all of the like drugs that they were giving me. But like, I remember just like being terrified when at one point I remember the brain surgeon coming in and he has papers. So I have to sign these papers. And he's telling my roommate Micah, and she's signing my life away because my parents aren't there. So she's like my guardian at this point. And he's just like, she could wake up not knowing how to talk, how to walk, not knowing who you are. And I remember like just hearing all of that. And I was like, holy crap.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah, you might not come
I,
back.
yeah, yeah. And it's kind of just like, it's like you die if you don't get it, or you take a risk by trying to get the surgery. So it's kind of like you have no choice almost,
Yeah.
but to just trust them and yeah, give it a go.
Well, I do want to mention something that Kelsey kind of highlighted. Athletes are pretty darn good at hiding, not hiding. That's not the right word. Athletes kind of present a little differently with concussion most often because they're really good at adapting to their injuries, to what's going on around them, and they are able to switch different kind of functions in their brain to come and also bodies to kind of make up for other problems. And that's probably maybe some of why I'm just hypothesizing here, but maybe why you didn't really present like you were really bad, but you really were.
For sure. No, what you said is like on point. Like it's just like you get an injury, you adapt, you keep going. Like anything, like nothing is going to hold you back from just keep going.
It's sort of very
And
apropos that there's an ambulance in the background going by you right now.
oh, there,
Everyone, that was
it's
not planned.
it's a sign.
Yeah, maybe so. All right.
That's,
But, but
yeah.
but my understanding, Kelsey, too, like you had this immense, like, I guess, struggle to even get appropriate assessment and care, but it didn't end there, did it?
No.
That struggle didn't end there. Tell
Sadly, no.
what happened
Um,
after your surgery.
so after my surgery, I was in the ICU for a bit, just like having to pass walking, talking, cognitive functioning test. Basically, then I moved up to the recovery floor, was there for a minute as well. Pretty much they released me and just said, okay, you're good to go. Come back in a couple of weeks to get the staples out and for a follow up. So that goes, and basically after that, too, they didn't tell me anything. They just released me and
Did
were
you?
like,
Yeah. Did you feel like you were
you're,
good to go at that point? You just had your brain like
I
surgery and like skull cut
don't,
open and like you
they
did you feel like
made,
you were good to go?
now that I look back on it, I think they were so casual about it that I was so casual about it. I was like, I'm good to go. Like, I had brain surgery. They said I'm cleared. Like as if it was like an ACL. And like
Uh-huh.
it wasn't the case at all. Like little did I know that like I mean, there were things that they told me that I was like I couldn't have alcohol and caffeine or sugar for I want to say like 9 months. I think it was.
Bet you lost weight.
And it was honestly, it was probably the healthiest I've been. And, and I also couldn't look at screens. So all I literally did healing was sleep and coloring books and like, yeah, like anything books, like crosswords. But even that would become too much at some point.
And everyone, the post management of concussion, post concussive syndrome, brain surgery like this is now vastly different. It should be. It should have probably been in 2016 as well, but it wasn't for Kelsey, and it didn't end there.
No. Yeah, they didn't tell me too much, had a, normal standard packet of things to follow for a little bit, followed them. Still couldn't really like work out or like elevate my blood pressure a lot or heart rate because it would hurt my brain. But after I followed all that, went to my follow-up appointment, they said everything looks fine, took the staples out of my head and were like, "Okay, like you're cleared." And I was all of a sudden just cleared like a few months after my brain surgery to snowboard.
Hmm.
Yeah. And never did any like cognitive testing or anything like that. All the doctors were just like, yeah, you're fine. Like,
You look
go.
good. You look fit. You
Literally, that was it. They were just like, you look healthy. You look great. Scars healing fine. Have a good time type thing.
know. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Super. It was like, I just had the weirdest experience, I feel like. Like, everybody was just so mellow about this brain surgery, which makes you think, oh, this is standard, this is mellow, this is normal, but it's like not
No,
at
it's usually
all.
not normal to have your brain scraped and holes drilled in your skull and chunks of your skull taken out.
Yeah, they treated it like it was a broken arm.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
did you try to snowboard at 2 months then?
I did.
You did.
I
What
went,
and what happened?
yeah.
What was it like? It was the old days, or like what occurred?
Honestly, it kind of like came back like riding a bike for a bit. Some things were different. I couldn't remember how to do some tricks. And after kind of like a couple of weeks, it was getting worse. My memory was getting worse. I was having really bad PTSD on my snowboard, where every time I fell, I would think that my brain was bleeding. And that was a whole nother like what's going on? Like why does my head hurt when I fall almost? And I kept going back to doctors and they just kept saying everything was still fine. So they just said every brain injury is different, which I understand that it is. So they don't know what exactly is going to be the outcome for everyone. But for me, mine's just got progressively worse as the months went past.
In what way?
My the worst thing were my mood swings. I've never experienced I'm a pretty positive, happy person, and I never experienced anything like them. Like they something would trigger them, and I would almost just like go red, and I wouldn't remember what I was angry about or yelling about, and I would snap out of it, and I would just start crying because I was like, this is not me. Like this is not who I am. So that was like the worst of it. But then on top of that, like as the months went past, my cognitive function went down. Like I was slurring. It was really hard to like the process of talking, like thinking of words and trying to do it like at a normal pace was hard. My sleeping was pretty much non-existent. I was probably sleeping like I was lucky if it was 3 hours a night.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then my eyes. It hurt to move my eyes pretty bad.
And all those, everyone, those functions she's talking about that got impacted are heavily impacted by cranial nerves. And so, even though Kelsey's pressure had been taken off, her nerves have not healed and we're still shaken. And so, some of these post concussive syndrome effects that she's talking about can be pretty severe and they can affect your emotions. And many people get violent, not only depressed, but they also get violent. And we have to kind of keep that in mind. Some people even act like they're drunk, but they're not. They have a brain injury.
Yeah, I think all of it. And now that I look back on it, I think about it a lot, and it's definitely like just impacted me. And I'm like, it's so real.
Yeah, but you're recovered now for the most part, I understand. How did that happen? Because I think from what I remember us talking about, you even had a hard time searching out and finding people to help you with concussion based rehab, which is like mind boggling for me because that's what we specialize in that here at the institute, and there's other institutions around the area that do, and they're all across the nation. But you seem not to be able to find anybody. So what? Why was that, Kelsey? I mean, now that you look back on it, I mean, tell us about that.
It's definitely been a journey trying to find help the whole time. I don't I don't know what it was. It was kind of just like I didn't know who to turn to. So I tried some psychiatrist to maybe help with like the emotional effects. That didn't work out. They basically just told me you should be done snowboarding and move on. And I was like, this is not it. And so I kept trying to seek out help, kept trying to seek out help, still couldn't find any, which, yeah, like you said, it's like baffling to me on how I couldn't find any help. And I think it's just like it's a process. It's a process to like try to get in with a neurologist. And they don't make it easy. They make it hard. It takes months to get in with one. So I think like it really just like turns you away from wanting to
You said they make it
almost.
hard. I mean, I'm curious about that. Obviously, lots of people are busy and, they're
Mhm.
specialists and so forth. But did you experience like barriers? Did you feel like somebody was putting some barriers in front of you to getting appropriate care? That's kind of what I'm hearing. And I'm just curious, what, in your perception, what were those barriers that made it hard?
Mm, It just, for me, it just didn't seem like they cared. Like would tell them all of these issues that I was having, and like they wouldn't have an answer to it, so they didn't really know what to do with me, I think. And yeah, I kind of just like was like, you know what? If I can't rely on these doctors, then I'm gonna try to do the best that I can and heal myself. So I started doing yoga and meditating to help with the whole emotional mood swings. And I changed my diet a lot, just like eating good foods for the brain. And that seemed to kind of like start the direction of my healing, I want to say.
Okay. Did it seem to I mean, did it seem to help with the emotional aspect of things for you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was pretty much like night and day as soon as I started doing that. But then, yeah, it's like I kind of got those. I'd still get them up like the mood swings like here and there. And I would like kind of like cry for like 2 hours. And I was like, this is okay. This isn't healed. Like I need actual help. I've done everything I can on my own, but I need professional help,
Yeah, I mean,
which,
people, think about this just for a quick second, right? She has nothing really to cry about for 2 hours, right? She's a professional snowboarder, gets flown all over the world, and people pay her money.
yeah,
And they
yeah,
give her
like
free
life
clothes and snowboards. And so, it's
for
not
sure.
right. Yeah. So, yeah. So you knew you still were not where you needed to be.
No, no, it was like, I feel like, and this was like, so it's been in March, it was 4 years since my brain surgery. And it took me 3 years of searching and trying to do things on my own to finally seek professional help that cured my, like all of the symptoms I was living with.
And my understanding is that you somehow stumbled across a cognitive rehab center here in Utah.
Hmm.
And how did you find them? Was it like via the internet or just talking to other people? I mean, how did that happen for you? That miraculous sort of find.
I was pretty silent. Like, of course, like I dropped the sponsors that I was with and was like, you know what? I'm done competing. I'm just going to snowboard for myself. I don't want that external pressure there. And I kind of opened up about my injury on like just like social media platforms, and people were reaching out to me. And another snowboarder, she went to this clinic. And I mean, she's from Australia and like comes to the States a lot, but she heard about it. She went there and recommended it. And so I was like, you know what? I, I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I need
Now,
help.
I know of this clinic because actually we at times collaborate together on concussion cases. It's, as you mentioned before, how a athlete or how an individual handles their brain injury is very, very different. The brain doesn't always play by the rules. However, they really heavily focus on kind of reorienting your neurons and your brain and kind of really getting things functioning again from a cognitive aspect. We, on our side, we work on more of the pain, the neuroactivity, and kind of getting things aligned and calming the neurologic system. So it's interesting to me that these places are not more well known. Why do you why do you think that is?
The only thing that I have like come up with to, yeah, because I'm like, not only are they like not known, like very popular, but they're also not covered by health insurance. And if they are, it's little to none. And I just thought, I think I could be wrong, but I just think it's because they're new like treatments, and they're outside of like the scope of medicine that's on health insurances. I could be wrong, but that's what I
No, you're
have
not.
come
No,
that
you're not
yeah,
wrong. Yeah,
yeah, I'm like,
it's true. Many of the therapies we do here, somatic based therapy, position release therapy, whatever it might be. A lot of insurance companies, yeah, won't pay for it. They don't recognize it. Just not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's what that's what I gathered.
so you had your therapy. You didn't have it here, which I just want to point out to everybody. I didn't know Kelsey at this time, but sure wish I had. I would love to have helped her along with the clinic that she got help from. How long did you go for therapy, and what did it kind of involve that really helped bring you back?
I went for 1 week, which
1 week. That's it. 1 week
seems, yeah, seems
after 4 years.
bizarre. After 4 years, I went for a 1 week treatment that, yeah, they take a functional MRI of your brain and they see where your brain is lacking oxygen and blood flow, which could be causing a lot of the issues. They found in mine that my brain was like not functioning as a normal brain, obviously. Um, like a lot, I want to say my amygdala wasn't firing a lot, which is why my eyes hurt to move because it was pulling from like my occipital lobe, like a lot of, like it's like the brain, as you know, finds new pathways to navigate, and mine just found new ones that were not the correct way.
So
So yeah, they
did
be
you like play computer games, and
um
what did they have you do that helped kind of reorient your amygdala and occipital lobe, I guess?
it's kind of like now that I look at it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that all worked. But it was basically like a lot of physical therapy, like balance, and
Mm.
they do cardio sessions because obviously exercise in the brain. I did a lot of frustrating games throughout the day where like it would be memory games.
Mm.
They would give me, you know, 20 cards and I would have to make a story with them. And the next day when I came in, I had to say the story with the cards in that order. And just like, yeah, just a lot of like occupational
It,
therapy.
it sounds like they were giving you a workout for your brain.
Yeah, 100%. My
Mhm.
brain has never worked in all of my high school and college career. I feel like my brain has never worked as hard as it did in this 1 week. Like you're pulling like 8 to 6 of brain workouts.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows out there, it's a very standard kind of therapy that is done. We do it here as well. It's ocular motor and vestibular training, really trying to reorient the brain to visional, sort of vision tasks, but also balance tasks, hearing tasks, and so forth. This particular clinic definitely was doing a little more computer-based functional MRI, really trying to tap into where her deficiencies were. But it's amazing, just in 1 week of therapy, she was able to turn herself around in 4 years. Now, with that, how has this injury, I guess, to this point, affected your life? And maybe you can speak to this new goal that you have in helping others
Mhm,
with that, that the way it's affected you.
totally. My brain injury has affected me in ways that I never thought it would. My life was basically put on halt for 4 years. I was living with all of these issues that it was hard to even live a life, like a fulfilled life. And that led me to, yeah, create Save a Brain because after 4 years, I'm just like, I don't want people to have to ever go through that. And the more, like I said, the more I talked about it, the more people were reaching out and were like, I'm dealing with this. I don't know where to go. I'm having concussion issues. Like, what do I do? And it's just like, you see everybody coming to you, and you're like, I have to do something. Like, this, it's not okay.
Well, tell us this. Is it a foundation, a company, Save a Brain?
Hmm.
What is it? And then maybe like what's the purpose of it, I guess? But like
Yeah.
how do you see it helping people?
hmm So Save a Brain, it's a 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization. And our mission is to spread awareness of the long-term mental and physical effects caused by traumatic brain injuries and concussions, along with, providing education. We aim to connect individuals to treatment centers and provide financial support so they have the opportunity to heal and treat their brains to continue living that fulfilled life.
That is
And
awesome.
yeah.
Well, you mentioned before, like for some people, they may not be able to afford the care
hmm
that's going to heal them.
Totally. I feel like that's people affording the care is what's wrong, in my opinion, with the whole stigma of brain injuries. It's like people have a brain injury and they think that this is their new normal, but little do they know that there's treatment out there. But unfortunately, it costs a lot of money. Like my treatment was $10,000, and I was lucky enough to get a grant for that from another nonprofit.
Kelsey, I should open up a clinic like that. I'm joking.
Seriously,
But
no.
seriously, we provide concussion-based treatment here. However, we also charge money for it. Not $10,000, of
Oh, well,
course.
yeah, the 10,000. But, and I mean, like, it just like, I think it's just so sad that like people have to live this life that they're not happy with if there are resources out there that could maybe help them. And all because of money, all because our health insurance won't cover it.
Well, it's a general theme that obviously has been coming up in politics and all across the media that we do have a serious problem with our healthcare system. What
hmm
the solution is that's going to allow individuals to receive the care that they need, both to survive but also thrive, that's the great enigma that we're under right now. And your foundation, I'm just so excited about and thrilled about because I know those individuals. I have several of my patients who could not go get care from that particular clinic and others because they just didn't have the money. And
hmm
now we can at least refer them to Save a Brain so they can become educated about what's out there, but also potentially to benefit like you did from a grant or some financial assistance so that they can live a full life and return to sport or return to life in general like you did.
hmm Yeah, and I mean that's our goal is just like I don't know, I've learned personally that it's like, yeah, we literally only get one brain. So we need to take care of it. And 3 million traumatic brain injuries happen a year. And yet we have no education on how to even treat a concussion, which it is crazy to me.
Right. Well, concussion has become kind of a spotlight over the last probably, I would say, 10 years,
hmm
particularly in the field of sports medicine. We are starting to get a grasp on how best to approach not only evaluation, but also the management and treatment and rehab of these vital injuries that are happening to individuals of all ages, and they're even more significant for the young. And that's something I see, and I don't know if you've seen this, Kelsey, as a snowboarder, as a advocate in the sport and for women and so forth. But
hmm
when I'm a ski patroller, and when I'm at ski patrol, I see a lot of young individuals not wearing helmets, and I don't know if they just think. I mean, they may be able to afford it, but I'm wondering if like why is it they're not wearing helmets? I mean, is it because they just want to look cool, or they want to look like an action star? I can't get
Yeah.
my head wrapped around that. And have you seen that? Have you noticed that among the young? Because getting a concussion when you're young is even more traumatic than when you get one as an adult.
hmm That's honest. That's one of the biggest things in the action sports industry that I think Save a Brain can change is the stigma around helmets. It's like you said, it's like children look up to the professionals, yet the professionals only wear a helmet when it's required. And
Why do you think that is? Because they're pros. They obviously want to keep doing what they're doing. Not
I like, yeah, like you said, I think athletes just don't, at one point it just became not cool to wear a helmet. It doesn't look cool. And yeah, like people feel weird in them. They feel bulky. They can't find a good fit. Or like you said, they're expensive. It's just like, but I feel like people just don't feel comfortable in them. They think that they look funny. It's kind of like an ego driven thing, I feel like. And I'm like, we got to cut it out.
so
No.
beyond the education and beyond the money. It sounds to me too that we've got sort of a task of changing the culture about wearing
Mhm.
a helmet in snow sports.
For sure. I mean, we're trying to like, obviously, we're starting with snow sports because that's just where we are, but like, we're kind of reaching out to all action sports right now because, yeah, it's just like, we're all doing the same thing. We all love what we're doing. So, like, why wouldn't we want to protect our brains so we can do it longer for our whole lives?
Yeah, and be normal.
Yeah, literally, I'm learning about like, lately I've been learning about brain disease and like dementia and Alzheimer's and it's like CTE even, and it's just like action sports athletes, all athletes honestly are at risk of a lot of these brain diseases whether we want to know it or not. And
Yeah,
eventually,
or just admit it, or just sort of be cognizant
yeah,
of that. And what you had said earlier, like, okay, it's normal. I got 8 concussions and I'm going to keep going. Well,
yeah.
much like the boxer getting punch drunk, and we think about
Hmm.
Ali and others, where you receive those repetitive traumas, and they may not even be enough to really show symptoms. But now what we're seeing in the research is even these like repetitive traumas over time may have long lasting effects and damage your brain, almost scar it um, from those repetitive traumas, and then show up later in life.
Hmm. And I think that's like where I personally am like, the action sports world, we need to wake up because, yeah, like people are becoming like in their 30s and they haven't worn a helmet for their whole career. Now they're noticing all of these effects that they're having and they're trying to find treatment. And what if we could prevent this? Like my brain surgeon, when I went back to snowboarding, he was like, you need to wear like a mouth guard more than anything because a mouth guard is going to help stop the concussions. And it's just like, yeah, as action sports, like, football players, hockey players, butt pads, mouth guard, helmet. Action sports players, which were easily, like,
Sunscreen,
yeah,
sunglasses.
yeah, I'm like, what, like, we should be doing the same thing. But like, I wear butt pads, mouth guard, helmet always now
Mhm.
when I snowboard. And it's like, I'm like, everybody should wear a helmet, but if you don't want to wear a helmet, wear a mouth guard. Like, do anything to try to prevent, I just like brain health, it's like, I think it's a scary topic for people. So
Yeah.
it's like people would rather just like brush it under the rug and not talk about it. And from Save a Brain, I'm like, all right, like, let's create a conversation. Like, let's start talking about mental health. Let's talk about how we can protect our brain, feed it good things. Like,
So
yeah,
everyone,
yeah.
let's join the conversation with Kelsey
Hmm.
and save a brain. So Kelsey, where do people find you? Like, how do they connect with you and save a brain? How do they connect with you?
Yeah. So Save a Brain, we're fairly new. We just launched 3 months ago, but we do have a website, saveabrain.net. Also follow us on Instagram, just at Save a Brain. We are working on finishing up our Facebook. We had a few issues, but you will be able to find us on Facebook soon as well. And yeah, feel free to email us. We kind of just like, we want Save a Brain to be a safe space for anyone who is struggling and feels alone to come to about their head injuries because there's just not enough support out there.
I agree. And you know, and if anyone's been listening today, there's not enough support. There's not enough education. We need to make this a conversation, bring it to the forefront. So,
Hmm.
with that and the work that you see yourself doing with Save a Brain in the future, and even currently,
Hmm.
what impact do you want to have on humanity with your new endeavor, Save a Brain?
I I think about this a lot. And it evolves every day. I'm kind of like I get like really excited about what we can do and who we can help, but I just hope that we can impact humanity by having people be vulnerable and care about their brain. Like we only get one brain, and I think that's so important to understand. And if we can create a movement to where everybody feels comfortable and safe, like what doors that could open. And I, one day, this is down the road, but we want to run educational clinics at action sports camps about head injuries and like what if they see someone get a concussion, how they can help, whether it's staff or a kid or a parent. And yeah, we're looking, I mean, this is like super down the road, but if we could one day get health insurance to change where it's like mental health insurance and people can receive the care that they need and afford it.
That would be amazing. And we thank you. We thank you for the impact that you're trying to have on humanity, saving lives, saving brains,
Say,
and we look forward to being part of that conversation as well as that goal. And so, what you'll find on the in tagged with Kelsey's information in this podcast, we'll be posting up relevant, informative articles that are standard in the community of sports medicine and how to take care of the brain, things to look for. And we'll also be posting up some resources from Kelsey as well. So we hope that you take advantage of those and really look to save a brain. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for your time and your just your passion to help others. And it's unfortunate that you had to go through this struggle to get here, but I'm fairly confident that your struggle is going to allow others not to struggle and to save their brain. Thank you, Kelsey.
thank you for having me, Tim.
All right. Everyone, take care of your brain, wear a helmet, be educated, and look out for one another. We'll see you next time on the end.